This show is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. The content on this show is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such condition.
This is Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton, exploring the science of functional medicine and the power of healing from within. Breathe in. Breathe out. And now your host, Dr. Beth Claxton.
Welcome to Rooted in Healing. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Dr. Beth Claxton. I'm a medical doctor, board certified in obstetrics and gynecology, and certified in functional medicine by the Institute for Functional Medicine. Why I wanted to get this show together is because we're suffering in a world with so much illness and so few answers. Today we have a very interesting guest named Kelly Kennedy, who has the True Wellness Center in the Northeast. She has her own story and very unique healing journey, and I wanted her to share it. I met her at a conference a couple of months ago, and the entire conference blew my mind, but somehow we were all on the same wavelength, learning about this type of healing that was energy and lymph and water, and it seemed brand new, but there was something that was really resonant and true about it. So we're going to continue that conversation from her clinic in Philadelphia, and we will be right back after this break. You're listening to KAZM at 106.5 FM and 780 AM Mellow Mountain Radio.
For more information on Dr. Beth Claxton, visit bethclaxtonmd.com. And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr. Beth Claxton, and today we have with us Kelly Kennedy. Kelly is a leading voice in bioregulatory and terrain medicine and the founder of the True Wellness Center. With over 2 decades of clinical experience, she empowers clients to restore health through fascia, lymph, oxygen, and water. Her own healing journey began after a near-fatal accident and years of chronic health challenges. Today, Kelly combines cutting-edge diagnostics with European biological practices, guiding thousands towards true individualized wellness. She hosts the Energy Flow podcast and leads the Energy Flow Forum, where her global community learns to align with the body's natural healing intelligence. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so very much, Beth. I am so excited to be on a radio show. I feel like I'm bringing the future and the past all together in the now. I love it.
Exactly. I'd like to hear more about your accident that brought you to, like your story that brought you to this interesting frontier of lymph and fascia, because it seems like I'm hearing more and more about the lymph. It's showing up more like right on Instagram and TikTok, because that's how we know that it's starting to get popular, right?
Yeah, which is why I'm glad 5 years ago I went out into that podcast world. And I got to be honest with you, listening to you start this radio show made me aware of when you said, thank you for tuning in. And I'm a wordsmith, and it's all about frequency. It's all about energy. It's all about tuning in. And I knew that people were sicker than ever when COVID hit, and they didn't understand how to be well. And they were freaking out, and I wanted to spread light where there was darkness. So I decided to start a podcast and do that whole thing because of my journey of understanding energy and the science of energy and how to apply it to unlock people from the prisons that they're in, essentially, in their physical form. And it all started because of something that happened in my life that at the time we all call motor vehicle accidents. And now, being Kelly Kennedy that I am, I actually call it the incident that occurred to throw me into this trajectory of energy and actually how the body heals, even in a physical structure problem of like literally losing 2 inches in height, having compression fractures, having a scalp wound where I have a 15-inch scar on my head. I had lacerated the spleen. You know, it was a very fatal accident, as you said. And yet I look back now and realize that was the incident. That was the spark. That was the darkest of the darks at the time that brought me to my knees at some level and every level, honestly, to go, okay, now what? Because prior to that, I was a collegiate rower. I wanted to be a doctor because my dad had Hodgkin's, right? So he had this genetic disorder, or we weren't sure if it was genetic at the time in the 90s, and I have a lot to say about genes. But that said, I wanted to be a doctor so that I didn't get Hodgkin's. And then my first semester at Cornell, I was in a horrible car accident and almost died. Pre-med. Cornell pre-med. And now I'm faced with, I'm a year into college, living on 6 medications now, living and managing pain. A couple months later, my father has a couple strokes over the next year, and he is dead within 11 months of my car accident at 55 years old, having suffered cancer multiple times from Hodgkin's disease and many other. He was just sick all the time. Blood clots in the lung, kidney stones, you name it. And then a couple strokes the last year. And I was with him for the last stroke. I do very well in, you know, medical situations, yet I always ask the question and never have stopped. Why? Why that happen?
Right.
What is there a reason? Because there's always a reason. There's always a causative agent. And when I got introduced to the science of energy, it was through my own experience, because 3 years after that, I continued to search. I got my degree in biology from Cornell, had no idea what I was going to do with that. Super beautiful and expensive piece of paper that I had. Didn't want to go into medicine because I was super frustrated with, you know, here's a medicine, here's a support group, please stop talking, and here's another painkiller. Kind of therapy approach and what we find in allopathic medicine. And instead, I also, because I was in Ithaca, New York, if you know anything about Ithaca, it's like the Sedona of the East Coast.
Yes.
It's where you get to, in the 90s, you get to, you know, go to your Reiki specialist, and you get to go to your organic food and your co-op, just like Sedona. Honestly, I never thought of that before until I'm talking to you. And Beth, I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably because of the environment I was in. I was able to access information I didn't. So I was already aware that there was something outside of me, or I thought at the time, because massage worked, Reiki I had some success with, but it was all not lasting, right?
Right, temporary.
And then 3 years later, I'm introduced to this gentleman. I was just out of college, and he was doing this emotional release technique. And I was in sales, selling products I really believed in with, you know, degree in biology. I was selling water filters, air filters, and stuff, but I sucked at it. I wasn't good.
That's miserable.
And so I was introduced to this work to say, hey, you can overcome your emotional issues that cause you not to be good with selling, because selling is about personality and, you know, that kind of relationship stuff that I wasn't great at the time. And so I was like, okay, I'll go. So I went just willing to be experiencing anything. And all I know is it changed everything over 3 weeks. So then I went back and said, do you handle pain? And he acted like I said, do you have blue paint? He was like, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay. Like it was no big deal. And I was like, all right, well, I'm coming in for another one of those 15-minute appointments. So I have the appointment. I'm crying about my dad's death. I'm like, what does this have to do with pain? I have no idea. I leave, never physically injects me, nothing. It was just a vibrational, energetic therapy of rewiring the nervous system. Now I understand it. And I come back. I didn't understand it. Oops, sorry. Live radio show. I have actual dogs. And I came back for my third visit. Third visit was, okay, what'd you do? Because it's been 7 days now. I haven't experienced back pain that I've been in for 3 years, managing with Vicodin and Flexeril.
Wow.
Like, it's not a little back pain. I mean, I was living in pain for 3 years. I was managing pain. I was, those people that I couldn't be awake for more than 10 hours a day, like, because I was just so exhausted. I had to sleep in a chair for 3 years. I couldn't row again. That was like a joke. I could hardly lift the gallon of milk out of the refrigerator that I was drinking at the time, let alone much anything else. I couldn't carry a backpack. I had 2 sets of books, one for in the classroom, one for home, which as a broke college student is an expense, let me tell you, because we know how expensive college. So there was a lot of stuff. I was stressed. My dad was dead, right? I was going through Cornell, living through pain, just miserable. Loved what I was doing, wasn't making money. Go see this guy, start to make money, go, hey, do you handle pain? Have a visit. 6 days later. So do you know any rowers, Beth? People that row?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of a psychosis that pain doesn't seem to phase us. And so for somebody who lives in pain, who's also in the cult of rowing, they don't stop. And even though I was in pain, I still club rowed. And through the weekend when I was club rowing, I realized I couldn't find my pain when I was in the boat. And I was pulling hard. And I was like, wait, because when you're in pain for a long time, you learn how to push it out of your mind. You learn how to just phase out and numb out and not feel your body. It's kind of gross, but it happens. Plus, you're taking Vicodin and Flexeril and all these things. You're just doing it habitually because it's just your life. And I couldn't find the pain in my back sitting in the boat pulling the oar. And I was like, what is going on? So then I called the office. I came in for my 3rd visit and said, what did you do? And he said, oh, I did energy. And I was like, what? What's energy? And he goes, it's cool, isn't it? And, we're 2025 Sedona listeners. Yeah, that's cute. This was 1996. I was 23 years old. I was assuredly confused, frustrated, and angry. Plus, I was a little Irish Catholic girl with a lot of Vicodin in her system. So my anger out of my liver was really strong. And I was like, no, really, I need to understand, how do I make sure the pain doesn't come back? And I was so serious. And this guy seemed like it was so light for him. He was like, oh, energy, cool. And I was like, no, serious. How do I make sure the pain doesn't come back? Because I'd gone to hypnotist, neurologist, orthopedic specialist, pain specialist, massage therapist, Reiki. Like, I've tried anything. I don't really care. In my mind, I'm like, whatever the answer is, dude, just tell me.
Yeah.
And he says, plus I was, traveling with Grateful Dead at one point in my life. So, I was open to lots of things. I don't care. What did you do? And he goes, just be. I'm not. Yeah. I was a 23-year-old upstate New York hillbilly, essentially. And he, with a Cornell degree, so I knew science, biology, and he says energy and be, and I am thoroughly frustrated, confused. However, I could not deny I could not find the pain in my body, and I didn't understand why. And so I hung out with him for the last 28 years until I could explain it to everybody else, because it wasn't just for me that I didn't want to get cancer. I grew up in a home that felt very similar to what it felt 5 years ago in this world. Am I going to get it? Am I going to die if I get it? And how the hell do I not get it? And nobody could tell me. And then I watched COVID hit, and I went, good Lord, I have helped this out. I've figured this out. We've had thousands of people come through our clinic. We haven't even had a sign out front for 15 years. Maybe I should actually put a sign up, try to figure out how people can find us, and try to communicate what it is that we do, and try to help people out of the misery of suffering that they don't actually understand what they're doing. I see functional medicine. I see a lot of their unresolved cases. I see a lot of folks that have been to a lot of other deep clinics like Mayo and so forth, Johns Hopkins, that have tried a lot of disease care. And we don't do that. We don't care for disease. We facilitate the healing capacity of the body, because there's only one thing that heals, which is the energy. So how do you get the energy to heal? You know what you do, Beth? What? You be.
Just
now,
be.
I now understand why that is so profound. However, what I also saw in the last 5 years since I've gone out into this world, with the exception of the conference in which we met, my love. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
That the applied science rather of energy and energy medicine is not well understood. It's not known how to do it.
Right.
Like we talk about it, we can talk about the quantum. Yes, it's red light. Yes, it's cold. It's hot, cold therapy. It's alternative therapy. Okay, yes, I ground. Yeah, okay, I have to feel my emotions. Okay, I know it's about How do I put it all together? You know, I'm a novice at this, which maybe, or I'm an expert at this, and I've been, quote, biohacking for 5 years, but 10 years, but I don't know how to put it all in to actually feel different and stop managing my health. Right? Because you and I both know there's a lot of people out there, even practitioners on the stages, even the influencers, that sit there and tell us about all their prophecy about why healing, you know, what to do to be better, you know, what protocol to do, what thing to do. However, in the background, they're pulling me aside going, oh, I have this joint pain. I have this gut issue. Oh, I can't eat this. Can you help me with this emotion? Yeah. And so it took me 20 years to realize and see my own light, to be honest with you. And I finally had to break my own elbow to do it last year, falling on black ice, because I don't live in Sedona and I have black ice in Philadelphia. And when I broke my elbow last year, which I recommend nobody ever does in their entire life, and dislocated my shoulder, I had a new whole level of understanding of pain. And I had a great opportunity to apply the science because I had orthopedic surgeons telling me the only way this is going to get better is if you have surgery with plates and screws and pins. And I literally put my hand up to Dr. Green and said, I turned my head away. I go, I can't look at your screen. That hurts my whole physical body, my emotional body, and my energetic body. At that point, I'm sure Dr. Green was like, what the heck is going on? And I said, I'm going to negotiate with you. This isn't really what I said, but this is what happened. I negotiated with him, and I essentially didn't do a surgery. I got a bunch of x-rays because I know I can pull radiation in my body. That's kind of easy. And all I need to do is allow the energy to flow, get the fascia, the lymph, the oxygen, and the water to be realigned, deal with whatever emotional component this has happened for me, this incident now of falling on black ice, on the day that I was supposed to fly to Florida to celebrate my 50th birthday. But we got a nor'easter, so I got snowed in. Ha, 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 ha. And I knew the second I fell that this was happening for me, that this gave me an opportunity to take the science of which I fully surrender to and give another opportunity for me to prove that we regenerate. Even a menopausal 50-year-old woman breaks her elbow on black ice. She can heal even without surgery and have full range of motion in less than a year.
Amazing. And
have all the x-rays to prove it. And I'm doing push-ups again. And, you know, am I 100% back? I'd say no. My hand was the thing that got screwed up from the cast that I wore for a few weeks. And I'm still recovering that. Overall, everything is great. And the thing is that I've tracked it all and I can monitor it. When you look at how the body heals, you don't have to know what the disease is. It doesn't matter. You don't have to know what the injury is. All you have to know is how to facilitate the energy in the body, which is housed outside of us non-physically and inside of us non-physically. And the boundary is the fascia with a layer of skin over it, layers of skin over it. And that fascia is connected to every single part of our body. It is way more than connective tissue. That is housing the lymph, which we have 3 times more of lymph than we do blood. And when you open up the fascia, which is like the road, then the banks of the river, so to speak, then the river, which is your fluid of the body, which is your water, which is your lymphatics, which you have 3 times more of than blood. Those waves of energy of which we are that are connected to the nature, like, you know, when you go outside in Sedona and smell pine and stand in the vortexes of nature as you get to, and that beautiful, amazing planet of Earth of which you have all chosen to live in. When you get to stand there in nature, do you not connect to your nature through your breath and feel whole? and all your fragments come together, and there you are. Mm-hmm. There we always are. We just have to become more and more conscious of it, facilitate that, and allow it to heal. And that's how we do it. And all the science and all the philosophy and the application of it, both at home as well as clinical practice, is my body of work. And I've put together podcasts and membership forums and in-person immersions, because we still run a clinic after all these years, with that guy whose name was Ian, who told me that it was energy. Yeah. We now have a 20-year-old clinic and a 12-year-old. And, you know, heaven on earth is real, and it's a choice. And it starts with moving our lymph to, because on a physical level, that's where we get to begin to open up that energy through the river.
So
there you go.
So if you pump your lymph twice a day and go to a lymph therapist once a month, is that enough?
Great question. No.
So
40, 50, maybe longer. Let's see. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, I would say, yeah, that was probably enough.
Right.
Post-Industrial Revolution, no. Post-COVID, not even a chance.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Because we keep changing the environment. And as we know from Dr. Bruce Lipton, it's about epigenetics. It's about our terrain. Now, I've lived this way for 28 years, completely organic. And honestly, before that, I didn't have much toxicity either, because I grew up in the hillbilly part of New York, and I grew up a lot with well water. I had a lot of no TV time, 200 acres. Like, I had a lot of nature, right? And not a lot of chemicals and all that, because thank God we were not wealthy. And I say that truly because we didn't have a lot of excess. So we lived very simply. Yeah. And because we lived simply, I didn't have a lot of toxins that a lot of my friends had, because we couldn't, quote, thank God, afford that, right? So now I look back and go, that's how we live now. We live very simply. If I need a lotion, I go to coconut oil or castor oil. Right? If I need to hydrate, I drink really pure, high-structured water, and I eat really high-quality fruits. And I breathe really good air, right? And these are the things that when you make this your foundational principles, as simple as they seem, they are why, just like I worked in the pet store, when I worked on the farms, if the fish gets sick, the first thing I do is I change the tank of water that the fish is in. Because the fish is probably sick because of the environment it's in. Yet we all want to live in the same environment emotionally and mentally and physically. We don't know how to actually open our lymph, because what makes it thick is sedentary lifestyle, toxicants like metals and chemicals that are now airborne. I mean, I'm a happy person, right? I want everyone to live heaven on earth, but I'm going to dispense some not so great news, right? We go outside and breathe. We get aluminum and mercury. Airborne now everywhere. You can't get away from either one of them. They are placentally given to us, typically at birth, at such a large dose that I call it a preload. This is a toxic burden. Then you've got all the chemicals on the clothes that people are wearing and buying, the scents that people expose them to, the amount of radiation exposure from Wi-Fi signals, radio waves, television waves, computer waves, the amount of toxins from makeup and nail polish and hair dyes and cleaning products. Now we've got the food. I mean, most of the food people are eating is, take out the processed food, okay? Just the food. If you don't eat processed food and you're eating a highly organic diet, does it have the minerals our grandparents had? No, because we've depleted the soils because we're not regenerating. Glyphosate is so insidious. Even if we're eating organic food, we're still getting glyphosate. So there's so much that our lymph is up against that the way I use it, it's like before Industrial Revolution, it was clear soup, but the emotional stress caused it to be thick because everybody was kind of afraid to live and they didn't know how to live and all that. Industrial Revolution happened. We had a lot more access to excess. And we're like, oh, good. We're not going to worry about living in houses and eating food. We got plenty. Look at us. But then we became disconnected from nature, and now that lymph was still thick instead of water because the toxicity of the environment. Stress creates thickness of it, and environmental. Now add COVID.
Yeah, so
added an immune challenge we've never seen before, and an emotional stress that thicken the lymph, and we've got to get better at opening the lymph. Sorry, go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, can we take a little break? So lymph is important for detoxification. I'm gathering as you're talking. For the audience to really know like the nuts and bolts. Lymph is important for detoxification, and all these toxins make it thick. And ultimately, we would want it to be thin and running easily, and having this lymph fluid running through the lymph nodes so it can circulate easily, correct?
Correct. So thank you for making me break it down. So we have lymph vessels, lymph nodes, lymph organs. 3 times more lymph fluid than blood.
Right.
There's nowhere in the body the lymph doesn't touch. We have 600 to 1,000 lymph nodes. And the lymph organs are the thymus gland, the bone marrow, the spleen, the tonsils, the appendix.
Yes.
The small intestines. So this is the channels that when we move, it moves. And this fluid, which should be like water thin, pumps as we move. It goes through these doorways, gates like called nodes. The nodes decide, what is this fluid? Is this something that I need to circulate that's a fat and a nutrient or a gas that I need? Or is this a toxicant or a invader of somehow? And if it is a toxic invader, then here's the white blood cell to address it, the fighter cells. We do this at the level of the lymph nodes. At the level of the lymph node, then it dumps at the end. The last lymph nodes are at the top of our collarbone in our neck area, and 20% of all those lymph nodes are actually in our neck. Then they drain to these end points at the bottom near our clavicles, and then that dumps into our heart, into our cardiovascular system. Then the body circulates the nutrients, the gases, and we poop, pee, sweat, and bleed out what we haven't already breathed out. And when we move our lymph, we move our toxicants. By the nature of movement of the lymphatic, we allow detoxification. And so thank you for clarifying that, because that is, and it's hard for me to explain all the things I know, and I appreciate you asking me the good questions. The good interviewer gets the good answers. So the thing is that the lymph is the key to detoxification. When you allow the lymph to drain enough, it should allow the body to detoxify and identify everything. Even if it's a man-made weird thing the body's never seen before, it will know how to behave and not go intracellularly and stay out in the matrix, in the extracellular space, the space outside of the cell, which is where the lymphatics are, be identified to the system as an invader and go, hey, breathe this out, poop it out, get it out of the system, create mucus oftentimes, create expiration to get it out, and allow the body to have space again and go back into regeneration. Because the body always heals, it always regenerates, but it needs space to do it, and the lymph is where we find that space. When it's thin like water, the things that thicken it creates disease and illness. Then that allows us to not detoxify. Yeah. And then everybody wants to run around detoxify, and nobody feels well because they're not draining.
Yeah, so I also want to make sure listeners understand that we have a heart that pumps the arterial blood and the venous blood, but we don't have anything that pumps the lymph. That's our exercise. That's our movement, correct?
Skeletal muscle movement, diaphragmatic movement.
Okay.
So deep, conscious, diaphragmatic breathing.
And that's the muscle that pulls our lungs down and helps us breathe.
Correct.
Yeah.
And skeletal muscle movement, so actual moving.
Okay, great.
So sedentary lifestyle and shallow breathing, which I've been doing this for 20 years, testing heart rate variability, which is a way to assess the vitality of the body, the weight of the body, and how well people are doing, and looking at their breath rate. And 90% of the people that I have tested chronically ill to, I feel well, but could feel better, have shallow breathing instead of deep breathing, which means they're dehydrated and their body has sedentary lifestyle behaviors, which shows up as postural shutting down, which literally clogs the lymph. So it's been a problem. How much we sit is a problem. As I sit on this radio show, which is kind of funny. But as we move more, I mean, if we just think about prior again to the Industrial Revolution, we were outside more, we walked more. You know, not everybody had a car. People didn't just sit in houses and sit on chairs. We sat on floors maybe more, right? The beds weren't as comfortable. We didn't lay in bed as much. We lifted things more. It was a different way to live. I grew up on a farm. You always went and got wood, and you went out to the woods, you carried the wood, you brought it over, you made a fire. I mean, we did things like that all the time. You climbed trees, you lifted yourself up. There was a natural, I used my own body and applied it to the earth and used it. And now people walk into a gym with bad lighting, bad air quality, because these are false waves. They're on electrical current machines like treadmills and so forth that are putting a pulsation of electricity that's not good for their energy, which is shutting down and thickening their lymphatic system. They're in a Wi-Fi signal. It's actually against your nature to go to a gym. It's way better to go outside or go to a bio-loving center like we have at the True Wellness Center and many places in Sedona, right, where you walk in and they are giving you proper red light therapy, vibrational therapy. They're giving you high-grade, therapeutic oxygen. You're drinking high-quality water. Now your foundation, your terrain, you just change your aquarium.
Yes.
Now your cells get functioned properly. They get signaled properly, rather. Now they can function. The organs can function properly. So we don't chase what's happening at the organ level or at the cellular level. We facilitate what's happening at the terrain level, at the foundational level, and allow the body to heal. And the majority of that is lymph. And when you open up the lymph through the pumping techniques, through the vibrational techniques, through the emotional releases, through movement, you watch miracles, true miracles happen through the body and in such rapid pace, because when water is stuck, it gets thick and it gets gross and it gets dirty. And when you change the water, it just flows. Now you got beautiful, clear water, and you can do that very simply. It's just nobody's ever taught us how to drain our filters in our lymph system because it doesn't have its own pump. And we don't know anything about it, yet it's 3 times the majority of our body.
Yeah, so can you tell us some ways to help with drainage?
Yes. The first one is, I have 7 of my favorite choices for the lymphatics, and I'll give you the top 3. The first one is conscious, deep breath, that diaphragmatic breathing that we were just talking about. It's not deep breathing, because deep breathing is very active and very, which when a lot of people, when I say deep breathing, they think breath work.
Right.
This is a practice of witnessing the breath and being deeply conscious of the breath and not trying to do anything but what, Beth? Be, right?
Okay.
But just be. So as we sit up erect with our spines, if we can, if we can't, if we're in a wheelchair or something, we can also imagine it. Imagine our spines being erect. That's how powerful our mind is. And sit up with the back erect and just watch and witness the breath. And when we witness, we start to instantly slow down our breath rate, and we instantly start going to our diaphragm. And we have just pumped our 3 major lymph nodes on top of the clavicle with the full expansion and compression of the lungs at the top of the clavicles. And again, at the diaphragm, under the diaphragm is one of the largest nodes in the body called the cisterna chyli. It's actually not a node. It's an empty sac with its own name called the cisterna chyli. And it drains 50% of the lower body drains to it, and then it drains up to one of our main drains in our clavicles. So there is a very systematic way that the lymphatics drain, and that's what needs to be learned is the pathway. Just like any water has to go through a certain pathway because we live in gravity, and so there is the science of gravity in which this energy lives in the water of the body. And the only way we know that this body of water is alive is it has breath in it. Without breath, we're not alive. And so when we move you can't live for 1 minute without your lymph system. You can live up to 5 minutes without breath.
Okay.
Or longer, some people, right?
Yeah.
So the lymph, deep breathing. Number 2, pump your lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are deep, and because of a million reasons that you can learn about in my work, just know it's true. This is just true, okay?
Okay.
The lymph nodes need to be pumped as your primary nexing. A lot of people talk about dry brushing, and that's when I got into lymph 15, 20 years ago. It was all about dry brushing and rebounding and the Vader technique or the Chickley, which is going to your point of, does just an hour lymph work? Not really, because what the body's up against now, those techniques are not effective enough. So I learned from a woman in New Zealand named Desiree Despong, who I call the lymph goddess. I'm the lymph queen. And she taught me a lymph node release technique. And I applied it to the energy of science that I knew. And we got amazing results because she learned the other science for myself and somebody else. And we've married these over the 20 years that we've known each other. And it's phenomenal, the results you get, because when you apply the lymph node, which is pumping your lymph nodes with a very particular flow, which is why I call it flow, and it's a light pressure, and it can all be self-administered, at least level 1. You can really, and it's like brushing your teeth twice a day. We have to learn how to do this just to live if we already feel well, to keep up with the amount of crap they're throwing at us. Then we learn how to go to a clinic and get proper lymph node drainage, or go to a clinic that now I've opened up my lymph nodes. I want to get to my deeper tissues, and I want to get the fluid in my body to pump now that all my nodes are open from my feet and my ankles and my abdomen and my neck. And I can find somebody that has a flow Preza, which is a piece of equipment that we love. They're all over Arizona. There's some in Sedona. There's some in Scottsdale, Phoenix. Just look up Flow Prezo, Medela Health. That's the company that created it. And find yourself a Flow Prezo session and experience bliss, by the way, and experience your body go into parasympathetic. And you don't need all that if you don't want. You can just pump your lymph nodes. I teach this on my website, on my YouTube channel, all for free, at least level 1. So you can at least begin to experience what it feels like when you move your lymph. Because when you start really opening, so imagine now, you have a river that you've never, ever cleaned out, and you've just thrown crap in it for years, and it's gotten thicker and thicker. Right. You want to be careful when you start to take stuff out of there. So you just want to open up with a little drainage. And what you're going to experience is, I have a little more space, evidenced by, I'm coughing more. I got mucus coming out. I'm sleeping better. My period is better. I feel lighter. I've lost a few pounds. But I'm also like feeling really emotional. All those things can happen and more, because you got to be a skilled practitioner, know how to handle when you open up Pandora's box, essentially, right? So this river's full of stuff. I got to start to be. So we just gently open it. We don't need a sledgehammer open our river. It's never been open. Our filters has never been changed. Just start with changing one filter at a time. You have to change them all at a time. Then down the road, doing once a month and just doing your lymph twice a day could work for somebody like me, depending on how much life you're going to live. But tuning in is important. Tuning in to all the parts of your body, including your lymph. How is it doing? How's my vitality? How's my frequency? When you're very sensitive, as I am, as you tune in to your frequency being living in this physical body, which is really living in the water of the body, which is your lymph, and you realize it's reflecting your entire being, and you learn how to clean it up so it's clear and concise and beautiful and pleasant to look at and pleasant to be around. you tend to try to put it in all sorts of conditions, at least that's what I've done, to try to make it work even harder. And so I continue to work my lymph harder and harder because not harder and harder. I practice my lymph moves. So number 1 is deep breath. Number 2 is my lymph nodes. Number 3 is my full body, draining my breast, my inguinals, my hip area, my breast, my liver, and my spleen, in addition to my top 10 to 15 lymph nodes every single, maybe twice a week. Okay. Because of the demands that we put these physical bodies up against. And I don't mean just physical. I do mean emotional, spiritual, and energetic, and mental. Mm-hmm. And all those bodies align and come together in the water. And as we learn how, just like we have to learn a lot more about the ocean, as we learn more about this lymph system, we realize that it is the gateway to our heaven on earth. It is the key to the drainage of those things that don't serve us anymore, that are taking up burden and space in our bodies that we would like to get rid of. How we get rid of them becomes the question. And that's what I teach and give people access to, because I know there's no amount of time or money that you can go to somebody else's office and be well. You have to learn how to take care of your body. This is self-care over healthcare. And we have put ourselves in a predicament a little bit as human beings that unless you've been living like me for 28 years, you got your practice cut out for you, folks. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. There's no race and there's no game. It's all just practice, and you'll get better and better at it to the point where you can really be free, and you can live a flexitarian life like I do. Be free to live and eat and be wherever you want. Know that whatever your body is exposed to, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, or energetic, even a pandemic, you never feel different at all. Yeah. And know that you're free. Never get scared for 1 second, no matter what anybody throws at you, mm-hmm. because you are home and you know how to take care of your body. Because the home is the vessel, the physical body you've been given. And the majority of it is the lymph. And when you learn how to really ride that wave, when you learn how to surf, no water ever scares you ever in your life.
I'd like to we are almost out of time, but I wanted to bring together a couple of points that you've been mentioning, the emotions and the lymph. And as I learned at the conference where we met, it's the vibration of each emotion and the negative emotions that affect the water vibration as it interacts with the lymph. Is that, can you clarify that?
Yes, it's a great question. So first of all, words are our language to express the vibration that we are trying to understand. Mm-hmm. And we only understand a portion of the vibrations that our body is receiving, mm-hmm. about 10% actually, because the majority of the vibrations are through the heart. So there are no negative, from my perspective, emotions, because everything is just input. That is living in duality of good or bad. Mm-hmm. It all just is. Mm-hmm. So everything is an input of a frequency. Mm-hmm. And when two inputs, and it's impossible to get just two inputs in this world is my point. Mm-hmm. But when you just have two inputs from a very simple way, when you have two inputs come together, one has a high frequency and the highest frequency will always win. The next question is that frequency in coherence or is it in dissonance? That's where I think maybe the terminology of negative versus positive comes in. Mm-hmm. Is that water crystal in dissonance and doesn't look pretty, or is it in sacred geometry and looking very symmetrical and gorgeous, beautiful? Mm. And really, for me, it's all of science boils down to two questions. Well, three, really. Is there energy, enough voltage in the body to have energy? Mm-hmm. Number two, is that energy flowing towards regeneration or degeneration? Because it's never stagnant. Okay. We're fluid, dynamic beings. We're plasmatic, not mm-hmm. just neuro, we're plasmatic. Mm-hmm. And this is a hologram, and this is full of water, and that is what's representing in the physical body and mental and emotional that we can see. And yes, when that frequency of that water crystal hits another water crystal, evidence in the lymph, it shows pretty water crystals and it's clear, beautiful, and we release what we don't need because we have easy water, fourth phase of water in our body. Mm-hmm. And when something comes into our body or we get exposed to it, a second input, and it is dissonant. If we have a high frequency, we impact it. If our frequency is low, and we can impact the other thing if it allows it. So if somebody comes in and I'm emotionally stronger than they are, and they're physically weaker, our body's interacting, and the emotion's always going to win, by the way. Mm-hmm. And the emotional person will always win because that's the highest frequency. The physical frequency is the lowest because it's the most dense. And the emotional frequency is higher because it's lighter, because it's light and sound. So the lymph is where that playground happens. Mm-hmm. And what we don't let go of becomes physical signs of illness because it represents as metals and chemicals and blockades in our physical body. Did that answer your question, Beth?
I think so. I could pick this apart with you all day.
I know it's really, I appreciate that. It's really like it's the never ending story. Remember that movie? It's the never ending story of the deeper you get into it, the more of a rabbit hole it is. And I call myself Trinity from the Matrix, and this is the white rabbit, folks. Follow this white rabbit. By the way, lymph fluid is white.
Oh, okay.
And it is the white rabbit of the body. It's the thing that when you follow its lead, mm-hmm. when you follow the emotional body, mm-hmm. it doesn't disappoint because it's more informed. However, sometimes we get caught up with, is that mine or theirs? The discernment piece is because the filters haven't been cleaned. So we don't know, is that mine or theirs? Is that a button they're pushing on mine, or is that truly my heart center? Is that my source? And because the waters are dirty. So as we clean out the water, as we pump our lymph, as we express our emotions, we release the what's in the body that's held in. And I think everyone that's listened this long could agree that I'm quite emotional. I feel all the emotions.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel them in the present moment that I'm having them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I express them presently mm-hmm. in a way that's aligned with all my bodies, knowing exactly at every level how I feel, think, and know. Feel, think, and know about this moment. And when we do that, that's true self-care. And that takes being willing to express my emotions, feeling safe to say what I really want to say, using my voice, which is a vibrational way to express what our heart feels, which is what I started to say in the beginning. That's how we tune in. Because tuning into our full vibration is our heart, and we sometimes can't hear it because the lymph is clogging it up because it's so thick it distorts the truth.
Wow. Okay. We are at time.
Well, everybody that stayed with us, God bless your soul.
We will be right back after this commercial break.
We'll be right back with more Rooted in Healing right after these commercial messages. And now, more Rooted in Healing with Dr. Beth Claxton.
Thank you for listening to Rooted in Healing. I'm Dr. Beth Claxton. We just had an amazing interview with Kelly Kennedy, who talked about her own method of healing with energy and lymph and water and oxygen. And wow, was that ever interesting? There's so much more to dig into. So take a look at all of her information and her free offerings. You're listening to KAZM 106.5 FM and 780 AM Mellow Mountain Radio. Until next time, keep searching for that which makes you feel vibrant.
For more information on Dr. Beth Claxton, visit bethclaxtonmd.com.